Well, actually, I wanted to ask you because when you said like startups don't have much time, that really triggered something for me, which is like startups kind of don't know when their last month is. Like it could be the next month. If something goes bad, it could just be like everything's done. Like in terms of mentorship, because that's something that you've just sort of started going into in terms of consulting. How important is it to just fast track that for people?
Look, I mean, when it comes to runway, right, like how much like money a company has, like generally they have like startups that are managed well, which often they're not, but you can generally manage the cash flows and you can have a good forecast in terms of when you'll run out of money and start hopefully fundraising early or find a way to somehow pivot or reduce costs to get to, profitability sooner. But, I mean, I think that a lot in the food space, like in the food tech space in particular, you see a lot of scientists and a lot of like food technologists and technical people start companies and serve as CEOs, but they don't have the experience of managing a business. So like
the business acumen is missing. The technical acumen's there.
Yeah. So for like when it comes like things like negotiating maybe an offtake agreement with a distributor, because a lot of these, say, if on the topic of alternative protein, like a lot of these companies are ingredient companies. So they're not like Impossible Meat, Impossible Burger, they have a B2C brand, right? It's a consumer facing brand, right? A lot of these companies, but the problem with that is, you need a lot of money and marketing, right? Like you need the distribution. It takes a lot of time to get that, right? Into supermarkets, right? So a lot of these companies now are pivoting to do B2B. So they sell an ingredient to a larger agri-food company like Almarai, right? Maybe in Saudi Arabia, And then those companies, because they already have the distribution, they have the capital, they're the ones that take the ingredient and then produce fully formulated finished products. So it could be a burger patty, it could be a cheese, right? Whatever, right? So that's like, I think most of the companies are pivoting to that because it, is more scalable and requires less capital.
So Robert, for you, with your experience with Pure Harvest, how much of that experience and probably parallels you can draw with the startups that you're looking at, the food tech space, and also some of them that you're advising? So are you fast tracking their experience so that they don't have to go through the same probably hurdles that you had to go through? But is it just subject to investment also, or is it even the operational part that you share your 2 cents in?
Yeah, look, it can be anything that they need. A lot of founders, though, they like to talk about the fundraising, like, because they're always like, to your point, worried about money. But the problem, right, with fundraising is that there's a fair amount of like preparation and homework that you got to do to have a financeable project. And it's hard work. I mean, like back in the day, I mean, like, when it was easy to raise venture capital, like companies like Uber, would be able to raise billions of dollars, and oftentimes like investors would put money in blindly. They wouldn't even like give them a business plan. It's like, you want an opportunity to invest, like do it blindly, it's just crazy. Nowadays, there's a lot of like preparation you have to put together in your data room in terms of what documents, like financial models, market studies, like valuation supporting documents. And so I can also help companies do that. If you take the time to prepare that, you make a better first impression with investors.
Absolutely.
And then you can start to create a little bit of like competition even among investors. Like, I mean, because investors, they like companies that are prepared, that know the assumptions that go into their business model, and that they can provide like something that in a structured way that helps them talk through the potential risks and the mitigants, right? So that's like a lot of work that I help companies with, and a lot of the time they have already pretty detailed business plans, but it's adapting that to this region. So
do you think there's word of mouth amongst investors?
Word of mouth?
Yeah.
In what way? Like that they're talking to one another?
If a bad pitch comes through.
Oh,
and it's
I think so.
They just start.
Yeah, it's a small community, especially here in the UAE and the region. I think obviously the VCs, they compete with each other on deals, but then they're also
buddies probably.
Yeah, they're also talking to one another and colluding probably.
That's interesting. So you just like you can't afford to make a bad first impression.
I don't think so, because if you come off with the wrong foot, and if you're, say, not ready with something like a financial model and an investor asks for it, and then you need to take 2 or 3 weeks, to do it, you're already off on a bad foot, because the name of the game in fundraising is building momentum.
Yes.
Right? The moment someone is interested and hooked, like through a teaser or something, you want them, to sign an NDA or just get into your data room and start asking questions, and you want to drive the process to closure.
Yeah.
You don't want any hiccups, right? You want to preempt every question that could come, so that you have a very smooth process. Because then what it does is this is where the art comes in psychologically, is that then you can start playing investors that are interested off of each other to build urgency, right? And scarcity.
FOMO.
FOMO.
Yes.
So that's why you want to get your ducks in a row. You want to launch. Then you want to have as many conversations with investors and pitches as close to one another as you can, so that the first few that start coming in, you can start credibly communicating and signaling to the others, look, this is a hot deal.
Yes.
You want to come in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the other really important thing as well is momentum events. This is something I tell, is that your business cannot feel like there's inertia in your business when you're fundraising. The problem with fundraising, I tell people that the metaphor is like you're driving an F1 car, but you're changing the wheels while you're driving it.
Okay.
That's what fundraising is, because you got to move really fast. You got to be growing incredibly fast, because that communicates to investors. It signals that, look, this is, a promising investment, right?
Yes.
So you got to be moving really fast in terms of your metrics, KPIs, right? Your growth. And then, but at the same time, right, you got to be doing all of this preparation work and spend a lot of this time with investors, right? Which of course is a distraction away from the main business.
Correct.
But you got to do that, that's where the sleepless nights can sometimes come in, for 6 months at a time or more.
To find that balance, right?
That's right. Yeah. I feel like when you said, they look at the preparation, it's almost like the way that you deal with the investor before the deal happens is almost like them getting an idea of what it's like to work with you. And then that is the impression that even maybe goes into the decision making.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a big personal element. And a lot of investors, they want to be value-added investors.
Yes.
They want to also feel like, look, I can actually bring something strategic to the table, especially angel investors and even VCs.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, some investors are fine with a passive investment and just building a portfolio, but I'd say a lot of them are trying to invest in areas that they can, bring some contacts, do some mentorship, or So
it brings me to one question, which during my entrepreneurial journey, as you were saying, to go above and beyond the investor's expectations is the right way to make an impression.
Yeah.
But if the first impression doesn't go well, they usually mention that we can just keep me updated, right?
Yeah.
So is there a second chance with investors?
Could be. Look, in the end of the day, focus on doing well with your business.
Show growth, show a difference
Show that you're executing.
Okay.
Show that you're hitting milestones. Show the business is growing. Show that there's product market fit. Because investors, right, at the early stages, VCs and angels, they're looking for outlier companies that could become unicorns, right? That could conceivably have $1 billion valuation, right? In 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So they're looking for early signals of that in you. So I mean, if they pass on you, I mean, I would say it depends on the mandate and the profile of the investor, because a lot of them could be just focused on early stage, pre-seed or seed. And if you then, outgrow them, which is not a bad thing, right? Then there will be other investors maybe waiting, right?
Yes.
But I would say even in the case of Pure Harvest, my company, there were a lot of investors that passed on us, but we have a great relationship, and some of them now regret, not coming in. But that relationship is actually quite good now. I can bring them other deals. There's the credibility now has been built that, look, they rejected us and we executed, and now we're probably too late for them,
right?
Because the valuation is too high and they like to come in earlier.
Yes.
But there's some trust and credibility there, and they're keen to find other ways to work with us.
And do you think that the investment climate has changed since the time when Pure Harvest was raising funds?
Oh yeah.
And is it the same investment principles that are still sticking through now?
I think so. Yeah.
So that hasn't changed much. It's just that the capital is more restricted in terms of which startups to invest in.
I would say, it's hard to say. If you're like a true tech company, because Pure Harvest, we're tech enabled, right? We're not really developing any kind of novel technology. It's taking proven technology, adapting it to the local climate.
Right.
But if you're, I'd say, a software startup, with real IP, and big markets that you could conceivably scale into, I would say there's more venture capital now than there was like 8 years ago when we were starting.
Okay.
So probably net on net, it's easier now probably to do a startup and raise early funding than when we started.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when interest rates went up about 3-4 years ago, it created a bit of a hiccup. But I think we're sort of, at least in this region, I think we're kind of coming out of that right now. Simply just because there's a lot more happening in terms of investment. And also markets like Saudi as well. I mean, if you're, Saudi is like doing very well. I mean, UAE as well. Both UAE and Saudi. Oman even, is like picking up.